So, Alison Blackler's kindly offered to come in and talk to me today about Christmas. Hi, Alison.
Hi, thank you for having me on your show again, Julie.
Oh, it's great to see you. I'm sure we're going to have a great chat around this. So, what I was thinking about was Christmas and this expectation that we're all going to have the perfect Christmas, and there's almost a pressure there, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, I've even considered, when you go back to work, making stuff up to make my Christmas more interesting than it really was, because I love things nice and quiet. So what's your take on this, Alison?
Well, I think exactly that, Julie. I think we make Christmas almost into something that is bigger than it is, and yet it's massive. And we know it's coming every year, and the same conversations we almost have with ourselves and each other. But we almost put this expectation of perfection. It's going to be happy, smiley faces. Everybody's going to get on. Everyone's going to love the presents. The food's all going to work out. And we put this really high bar. And I worry that we all then can't reach that bar. But most of this is in our heads, because what we do usually create is a nice time for most. Obviously, we can talk about some more challenging situations in a short while, but we usually do have a nice time. It often is quite simple, and yet we've made it this huge thing. And I think the build up to it is what causes people to feel so pressured.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? It's that it just reminds me of, we're hardwired to seek out the negative. So maybe if something didn't quite go to plan, we might focus on that. But actually, just being with people that we like and get on with, that's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're having time off work for most people. We're giving and receiving presents, which is usually enjoyable. We're eating nice food, maybe having some drinks, spending time with friends and family. So it's something that we kind of crave all the year round, really. And yet we sometimes spoil it by the pressure that we put ourselves under.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is in our heads, isn't it?
Yeah, most of it is the sort of expectation. How high is your bar? I need everything. You hear people literally saying, oh, I need to get this decorating done before Christmas, or I need to get my drive done before Christmas. And there's a part of me that thinks, why do we do this? Or you suddenly decide that you need to tidy out under your stairs or something that really does it need to be done?
Yeah.
What is it that we're trying to create when we're looking for that? And I think I'm often talking about that on my show and with my clients is, sometimes when you feel out of control, you look for something that you can control. So it might be under your stairs. You think, right, if I get that done, I'll feel all right. But of course, the reality is you won't feel all right.
Yeah.
There's other things that you need to work on. So when we are putting our sort of calmness and our happiness onto getting things done, there's a risk, isn't there?
Yeah. Do you think it pushes us into competition as well, comparing with other people and wanting to be the best?
I think with social media as well, I think there is a lot of that, a lot more of that than there used to be. I mean, everyone posts what their Christmas trees look like. Everyone posts what their front of their house looks like. I think, we never used to, when I was a kid, you didn't never used to see what anybody else's Christmas trees looked like, really, until afterwards, if you saw people's photographs. So I think there is that competition. I mean, streets, roads almost have competitions, don't they, about who's got the most lights on nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. And I think the other thing that is often a trap is the competition that you fall into around how much you have to spend on people, money. So the financial side, and we know that financial pressures is a hot topic for lots of people. I think that, I haven't spent enough. Well, what's enough, and who are you comparing yourself against?
Yeah, and that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think there's something in there about tagging the price of the present to how much we care about somebody. Those two things aren't connected, are they?
No, definitely not. And I think if you make them connected, then I think the pressure's on for how much you're going to spend on certain people. And, I think parents as well, they're under so much pressure to provide these, what are very expensive gifts for children. But actually, when you actually sit down and ask children what they want to spend time with their mum and dad or their loved ones, their auntie, their grandma and things. And they do want to have presents. Of course, children are very focused on that, but we've made them like that.
Yeah.
You know, they're not naturally like that. We've made them like that.
Yeah, it wasn't their idea, was it?
No, not at all. And I think, you know, you often ask, I think one of the cutest things ever is if you ever ask a child, quite a young child, you know, what did you get for Christmas? They'll often say something that's either the last thing they were playing with or something quite insignificant. This is not the parent asking, this is someone else asking. Yeah. And the parent's like, and you got a bike. And you got but the kid's not there. The kid is literally in this lovely little space with this small, quite insignificant present, because that isn't really how little children anyway function.
So I think there's something in there, isn't there, around again, status on how much we spend. And I think of this year as well, when people are under so much pressure, it's trying to separate the two, isn't it? That, you know, you can show somebody love and care and it's not attached to a price ticket.
No. And I think one of the things that I see some people doing is that when and lockdown did a little bit of this, people became very creative, didn't they? And a lot of people were making things. And I wonder why and where we can move our attention into seeing that being much more special than something that you've bought. So people actually making something. And something that I personally did last year, because I went to quite a lot of Christmas markets with my boyfriend's business, and I made a decision to not buy anything from a shop. So all my Christmas gifts, I said to everyone, I don't want your Christmas lists. And I bought off a maker. I bought off somebody who'd handcrafted, artisan, beautiful things. Not necessarily that expensive, but handmade. And I loved handing them out because I loved sharing the story behind the person that had made it. And I'm planning to do the same this year. So that in itself doesn't have to have the price tag, because there isn't really one. It's because it's special.
And there's that support as well, isn't there, for local businesses who really need that support at this time of year.
Exactly. It's a win-win. Everyone's a winner. And like I say, my family loved hearing about the people that had, you know, I've met and what got them into their business, and seeing that really creative and some absolutely stunning things that people had made, and so unique. You can't put a price tag on something that's a one-off.
Absolutely. It is unique, isn't it?
So that was my personal kind of strategy for not worrying about how much I was spending. It was more about the real thought behind that small gift or that thing that somebody else had made that I was then sharing with somebody that I cared for. And that for me felt way, way more important than a ticket that, you know, that you can buy a million of.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit now, Alison, because I know you deal a lot in relationships. I think one of the other things that really comes up at Christmas is relationships. And I'm thinking about, you know, I'm quite big on boundaries. So I think particularly as I've got older, I spend less time with people who don't really give me that sense of well-being or enjoyment, or the people that I find might be a little bit triggery, maybe, I tend to avoid. But the thing with Christmas is, you know, you've avoided this personal year, haven't you? And then all of a sudden you sat across the dinner table, they open the mouth and you think, yep, I know why I don't spend any time with you. And what do we do? How do we make the best of that situation?
It is hard, isn't it? Sometimes if you do, if your family members are not your favourite. I mean, I love the fact that you're saying and reminding everyone else that it's perfectly okay to decide who you do spend most of your time with. You know, I think that boundary in itself is so important. I mean, so many people are trapped in should seeing people. You know, it doesn't bring us out. It doesn't bring the best out of it from everything. But yes, there are times, I suppose, at Christmas particularly, where we do have to spend time with people. And I think one of the only strategy that we can do really is to decide how you want to be. So if they are annoying or rude or whatever it is that you find they're not your they're not your chosen company, but you are here on this day. Decide how you want to be. So decide if you're going to come from a place of calmness or kindness or something that feels right for you, and just work on being that. And then if your attention is pulled onto the other person, just come back to, no, I set my intention that I was just going to be kind or calm or whatever it was that feels appropriate for you, because otherwise we're being sucked into their way of being. And if that's not a way that you like, you're likely to become like them because you're annoyed with them, or you upset with them, or you're cross with them. And there are some times with families where you have got to make a really big decision and decide that you're actually not going to spend time together because there is such a big conflict.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting idea, isn't it? Because I think what we regret is when we react automatically and they wind us up and we just react. So if we do have that intention to just be a particular way ourselves, a way that works for us, because I think sometimes, we might have these stories, oh, they start this year, I'm just going to tell them. We never feel better, do we, when we react? We never think, oh, that was such a good idea. We think sometimes that that's the answer, but it doesn't work, does it?
No, and I think there's two things. One, the reason why it doesn't work for you is because you're probably not being yourself, because you are being more like them. But also it's all about timing. Sometimes these behaviours that people do need challenging. Sometimes you do need to be able to go to somebody and saying, no, this is not okay for me. But across the Christmas dinner table is probably not the time to do it. So I think that sometimes is the pressure of Christmas as well, is that maybe there is a bit of conflict in a family, and then there's this big build up to Christmas Day, and you're now sitting across the room and you haven't really said anything all year, and then that's where it gets so challenging. And then it can, I mean, gosh, you do hear terrible stories about families having massive bust ups on the likes of Christmas days or weddings or whatever, and you think, why hasn't somebody kind of sat down ahead of this and said, hang on a minute, what can we do differently? And obviously that is something that, I do spend a lot of time with people working out how they can do those conversations. But for sure, I would not be urging any of them to be doing it on the Christmas.
So we do need to think about how we feel in particular situations, don't we? And I think we were talking earlier about self-care, weren't we, and really putting that in place and making sure that we look after ourselves. And I guess for me, it's making sure that we're all entitled to have a nice Christmas. And we may have to do things that we don't want to do, but we can pick out little slots almost for ourselves, can't we?
I think so. And I think it's the same old with just being busy in life. When we don't take a little bit of time out, everything else gets harder. So, and yet when we're busy, we think we haven't got time for doing the little things that actually, what I call the glue. And I think at Christmas time, it's, when the pressure's on and everyone's running around shopping and this and that, how do you then balance a bit of just you time? It's okay to do it, number one, but it's making it a priority, because we all hear people saying, I haven't got time, but timing is only about priorities. And if you don't prioritize yourself, then you will crash and burn, and you might be in a heap yourself, and then you can't enjoy Christmas. And then there lies another problem, is because you've made yourself, this time of year, there's lots of germs around. I'm a bit that way myself at the moment. So we've got to look after ourselves. And even on Christmas Day, if you've got lots of family and you're all in the same house and you're all under the same roof, what's to say that it's not okay to just take yourself off and have some quiet time yourself, just to top yourself back up, give yourself some energy, or go and do something, go and have a nice walk yourself. Yeah. What's to stop you doing that? People have this thing of, oh no, we've all got to be together all of the time. And I think that whole cooped up thing can cause people a challenge, because we're not in our routines. We're not in our other things from the rest of the year that we normally do.
Yeah. And I think that sense of when we are frazzled, that's when we're more likely to react. And
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I think that, again, when you talk about how do we manage others that are more difficult to manage, shall we say. We can't. No. But what we can do is manage us. So if you feel that you're getting wound up or starting to feel sad because of things, you know, again, a lot of Christmas can be a real difficult time for families where there's been a loss at Christmas time, or it's the first time, or even the 10th time. People often feel that real emotional pull that Christmas should be this really, really wonderful time. And yet we are all dealing with this huge loss, or this relationship ended, or whatever it is that's gone on. And of course, Christmas doesn't change that. That situation is still exactly the same as it was. It's just a different day that we're looking at.
I think Christmas can just shine a light on things and magnify them almost. But I just want to pick up on something else that you said, which is really key, which is we can't manage other people's behaviour. We can only manage our own, can't we? And we can get really trapped in that impossible striving to change somebody else. It just can't be done, can it? It's about changing our reactions.
And we can exhaust ourselves trying to do it. We get pulled in. You can't make somebody do anything else, just like they can't make you. And when we say that, we mean they can't make you feel like anything either, unless you let them. So if somebody is being hurtful, that's hurtful. But how you are affected by that, you have the control over that. And I think that's all we can do in these situations when we feel, you know, there's a conflict or a sort of disagreement, particularly if it's been over a prolonged period of time. It can be really stressful. How do you want to be? How are you going to manage it? And I think then, you can almost have an expectation of that because you're in control.
And you mentioned as well, taking yourself out of these situations and even getting outside for a walk can really help, can't it?
I think it's just sometimes, rather than trying to overthink something, and what we often do as humans is we start to rehearse in our minds, well, this might get said and that might get said, and what if that, and sometimes I think if you can just notice that you're doing that kind of thinking, go and do something else. Because as soon as you start to trigger all that stuff, you're then triggering probably your fear center, which then means you'll start to think in different types of defensive thoughts, catastrophizing thoughts. Your brain fills in the gap, so it makes up that such and such is going to happen. And then as soon as you start to do that, your emotional brain is running the show and you're not going to think straight. So you may as well take yourself off. And I think just on that, Julie, I think another great point that I've just kind of said and then want to come back to is, let's not rehearse as well. When we talk about how we're going to manage, if you are having a family gathering that there's some conflict in, and we know that all you can do is manage yourself, but let's not rehearse that it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's rehearse that it's going to be the best it possibly could. Because I'm a big believer that if you make changes, other people change around you. So that person might not be quite as bad because you haven't rehearsed that in your mind. Yeah.
And I think there's a difference, isn't there, than sitting there and setting that intention to literally be with yourself. And I often talk about, tuning into physical sensations, and that's one aspect of it. But I almost think that when you do get into that state of rehearsing, you are looking for something that they will say that can be antagonist. That's a big word, isn't it? Antagonistic. So there's a danger there that you misinterpret something because you're looking for that negativity.
100%. 100%. It's literally whatever you are thinking is going to happen. That's like you're shining a torch. So you're looking with a big shiny torch for things that match what you've rehearsed. So if you rehearse that it's going to be okay, doesn't have to be amazing, it's just going to be okay, there's a higher chance that you won't look for things. And those things often aren't even things people say. They can be a look. They can be they've tutted. You're looking for things that they're doing and they're not even doing it.
Yeah.
And they're not even doing it. But you've made up that it's going to be awful and you've built up this horrible idea in your head. You feel unsettled, and then you're almost carrying that feeling into that day or that time.
And just to point out, really, when we rehearse, we actually do go through the entire stress response, don't we? As if we were actually in that situation. So again, not great for our health.
No, because the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's real and something, or this part of the brain that we're talking about doesn't know the difference between something that's real and something that is created or made up.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start to put your attention onto something that you don't even know whether it's going to happen yet, your brain gets very confused because it's like, well, hang on a minute, what is this real? And then all our feelings are going to come.
Yeah.
And if you rehearse or put too much attention on a past Christmas, maybe where it was really difficult, if you focus on that as well, your brain thinks, oh, well, yeah, obviously it's going to be just like that.
Oh, of course, yeah. I never even thought we do that, don't we? We think about the last time we were with them and what happened and churn all that up as well.
Which again, just churns up the emotional brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about being present, isn't it? Which is massively your thing, Julie.
It's about being present,
exactly. Isn't it? Everything is about being present. Be present to this Christmas, not to last Christmas or 10 Christmases before. Let's not rehearse something that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. Let's think about, how do you want Christmas to go? So if Christmas could be the best Christmas it could, or the okayest Christmas, if I could make up a word, how and where are you going to put your attention? Yeah. And it's all about being in the present, which is all your stuff.
It is present with the CE.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
Lovely little pun there. So talking of presents, Alison, this is a really good cue. You do have a new journal coming out, don't you?
I do. Very excited to say that we have a journal, which is a 3-month journal, helping us pause daily. So it's 2 questions, or there's a number of questions in each page. You set aside a few minutes every day to answer some questions, firstly about setting your intention. So it's not a to-do list, because I'm a big fan of let's move away from that. So it's setting your intentions about how you'd like the day to go. And then at the end of the day, there's a separate section to think about what's your small wins, what's gone well, what are you grateful for. And the reason why I've decided to create this is because I'm often saying to people who are very stuck, very hard on themselves, self-critical, always focused on what hasn't gone well. I'm often saying to them, get a little book and here's some headings, and kind of get into a better habit, writing each day, looking at your self-care, looking at what you're not doing enough of, what you're doing too much of. And someone said to me a little while ago, why don't you make them a book? Because sometimes we need that sort of real structure to be able to kind of fill it in. And then, of course, after 3 months, you might have got into a better habit about viewing your day differently, or you might need another 3 months. So you could maybe you've got you into the habit of writing. Because for me, it's about connecting your head, your thoughts with how you feel, and then down your hand. So connecting the 3, physically writing in this book. And then throughout it as well, there are extra little exercises for us to pause and just think about other parts of kind of the jigsaw, if you like.
And I think journaling is really powerful, because sometimes it doesn't come from, it comes from somewhere else, doesn't it? That sense that you think you're going to write something, and then as you're writing, something deeper might come out. And again, there's something about seeing it on the page and thinking, or looking at self-care and going, oh yeah, I've done nothing this week on self-care.
Exactly. And then by seeing it written down and writing it on a daily basis, if you are starting to feel rubbish, you can look back and think, well, hello, no wonder I haven't been going for my walk, or I haven't spoken to one of my friends for a while, or whatever it is, whatever your thing, I haven't done a bit of mindfulness, a bit of meditation, whatever your thing is that sort of keeps you safe about your well-being. And we're all different. Some people need to go to a gym. Some people everyone's different. The idea of this is for you to start to think about what's your things that you need that keep you. And then when you can look back and think, well, I didn't do enough of that there, so no wonder I didn't feel so good. because I've got little, you can like rate your day with little hearts, so you can try and start to see what's the difference, because we all need to work out what our things are.
Absolutely.
You know, everyone is out there is billions and billions of ideas about what you can be doing, and I think some people get a bit stuck and almost overwhelmed by how many things they think are available. And actually, for me, it's keeping it simple and thinking about what's working for you. So I hope that it'll be a nice thing for people to buy for themselves to get started, or maybe something that people might like to buy as a gift. So it's going to be on Amazon. I'll also have copies available myself to sell and give away and things like that. So I think it'll be a nice resource for people.
Absolutely. And supporting local businesses as well.
This is very true. I mean, for me, all of my offers, the same with my books, you know, for me, they are all about them being out there, helping, supporting people to make sense of their lives and just realize that actually they're not alone and that they can find solutions themselves.
Yeah. And that's so true, isn't it? Because we're all different, but we've got to go within and find out what works for us.
Definitely.
Yeah. Lovely. Brilliant. Well, that seems like a nice place to end.
Yeah, nice. Well, I think this is the thing, isn't it? We need to remember that, you know, Christmas can bring up all sorts of time, stress, worry, loneliness even, you know. I think it's difficult, but I think we can also, if we take a step back and try and simplify things, maybe we can make it the best we possibly can.
Absolutely.
I think the other thing I just want to say, Julie, one quick thing is, one of the other challenges I think some of us have is we watch movies which are gorgeous at Christmas time, but they're so false.
Channel 5.
Yeah.
I'm hooked to it, Alison.
So we've got to be careful, haven't we, about, again, what our idealistic fairy tale version of events are, and try and get them into some sort of reality.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true.
Oh, thank you for having me on your show again.
Oh, it was great to speak to you, and such a great topic. I hope it helps people settle down a little bit into the Christmas spirit and just relax, really. Just enjoy it.
Definitely.
Thank you, Alison.
Thanks.
See you soon. Take care.